What's up, fam? Light Shidler here. Welcome back to another episode of EXTOL WE. I have so many extras this week, I had to write them down. We have Mike, Andy, my mom and dad, Cy, and Rachel, your wife, and my cousin, Josiah. So we're just going to get right into it. So the two videos that went live this last week were 1 year down and Pictures with Fathers. So Pictures with Fathers is the one that went live this week. And we're just gonna have to jump into it because we got a ton of ground to cover. So, Cy, thanks so much for doing this with me.
No problem.
Yeah. So we met up at men's camp on August 1st through 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. You were chatting with somebody and they said, go talk with Elijah.
Dave Rooney is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He knew that I was running ultras and I saw him at the camp. I didn't know he was going to be there. He just casually asked if I had a race coming up, and I told him I had a big one. And then I told him, yeah, I've got this crazy idea. I want to put this video together called Barely Ultra, because when I do ultras, when I finish them, I barely finish them. And Dave's like, hey, there's this guy named Elijah. He's going to be helping with worship. Tall guy, you can't miss him. I need to introduce you to him because he does video stuff.
Yeah.
The first worship session, it was pretty obvious who you were.
So. That's the tall guy who's coming, I was foretold.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember it was so cool because then you came and chatted with me, told me a little bit about the idea, said, can you help with that? And there at Man Camp, I was like, absolutely, I'll give whatever I've got. Like, I'll help you with this video, like, let's jump in. And so then you started your race on noon on Friday, August 16th. Took off, and it was in South Dakota.
Yep.
And took off. And I remember you had told me that you were taking off. So I was like, man, I want to pray for Cy. So I was like, at noon, I'm like, I'll start praying for this guy. And then moving into that day, I had a huge video project with another business partner here in town. Started editing on that video and then started feeling like this pain in my side. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? I'm laying in bed and I'm telling my wife, there's something horrible wrong. Like, something's going wrong. Like, this hurts so bad. and so I was complaining. I was man colding it up.
Yeah.
And God challenged me, and he's like, use your time. You're going to be awake for a while. Use your time well. And so I really just started pressing in. And then God, by His Spirit, just gives me this little tap. He's like, check the time. It's important. And so I rolled over, looked at the time, and I've been praying for a little while. It was 12:03. So I was like, okay, midnight is when I started praying. I was like, okay, what's that about?
Right.
So I made it till 1 o'clock in the morning, go into the ER, and he got me hooked up on morphine. And I'm just slugging it out. But then the whole time, then I was watching the clock and I was calculating your times based on like a 16 to 17 minute split. And so then I was like, okay, Cy is running clear through the night. I mean, this guy is horsing out 100 miles. He's out there running. I'm laying in a hospital bed, in pain. And there was like this element that was giving me energy that you were running and engaging this trial of your own choosing.
Right.
I was in a trial that I didn't get to choose. I was just in it. It's type 3 fun.
Right.
And so finally I had emergency appendectomy. And so then on Saturday, I'm all hopped up on pain medications. So I meet up with you in Winco parking lot. Sunday when it connected back up. So I start praying at midnight. So midnight, where are you at in your race?
Yeah. So, unless you know the history of my races, they don't go so well. And this one was different. I started off intentionally very slow. The challenge for me is holding back because I go too hard up front and then it kills me at the end. And 100 miles is a long ways, but I felt good and I felt hydrated, all that stuff. So mile 40, I came into an aid station. My wife was there, and I felt incredible. And I told her that. In these trail races, you start running with people about your speed, and you're not running the whole time. You walk a lot of it. This guy mentioned to me, you get a special belt buckle if you finish under 24 hours. I started crunching the numbers in my head because I'm kind of analytical. I've been watching my heart rate. I know what my perceived effort is. It's David Goggins. He says, you ask yourself, what if? And going into the race, I thought I'd run a 28-hour if things were good, 26 if things were excellent. So I had started saying, what if I could finish this in 26? Well, then this guy says a 24-hour thing, A belt buckle is a belt buckle. 100 miles is 100 miles. But I'm like, well, what if I could do this in 24 hours?
Okay.
About mile 40, I knew I needed to pick it up a little bit. I got to the turnaround point. It was an out and back race at 12 o'clock, right when you started praying for me, probably about 12:05. I came into the aid station, told my wife, man, I'm feeling good. So right when you started getting sick and you're like, all right, I'm going to start praying for Cy, right about mile 50. At that point, I started heading back to the start line. My daughter came with me. We did 6 miles together. And I came into the aid station at 56 miles. And I told my wife, hey, I'm going to really try for a 24-hour race. So I told her I need everything out when I come into each aid station. She stayed up all night, leapfrogging, getting ahead of me, having stuff ready. You know, you switch out water bottles and vests. And
I remember you said when 56 was a pivotal point, like up till that point, you had a mentality of just finish.
Yeah.
I'm just going to finish. But 56 was a trigger point in your perspective. And what was that shift at 56?
Well, part of my issue personally is I'm overconfident. Even coming into this one, I had prepared better than I had for any other race I ever had. Before I'd say I'm finishing this race, and then a couple of times I didn't. A few times I didn't. God's used these to really humble me and help develop me as a person, help develop my character. So going into this race, my hope was that I would finish it. And mile 56, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this in 24 hours. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to do it this fast.
Yeah. I remember we were chatting out in the driveway, and you said up to that point, it was like, just keep going. I'm going to finish. But you said your race started at 56. Like that's where you saw sub 24 is in reach.
Yep.
And like, rather than just having this mentality of like, I'm just chugging forward, like I'm just going to grind this out. If I have to crawl across the finish line, I'm going to finish. That then all of a sudden there was this shift of like, this is possible. What if I could probably do this on 24? And that then all of a sudden the race started where you're calculating your splits, like you're dropping weight, like you're getting a higher mental intensity because you're running with a purpose to beat something, like you're obtaining something, not just you're pushing yourself further. So I think it's so cool then just hearing about your race process, how you said so many people start out and like they start out too strong. You're excited. You don't have the full scope of the race in place. You're like, this is 100 miles and your heart's racing. I mean, you're like, I'm doing this. There's excitement. And you start out too fast and that burns too much energy and you're not running with the finish line in place. But then just hearing how you had like world class, John running with you, brought you, came in and you're running the Crazy Mountain 100. I mean, he's tagging the big stuff.
Yeah.
But you have that kind of expertise and friendship along with you in the race, helping to regulate those things, like where, you're trying to get out ahead of yourself. And he's like, whoa, come on now, pull it back, But you have that kind of person with that kind of experience running with you. And then just all of the elements of, running into your 50-mile mark that was your anniversary split.
Right.
You're like, give me some potatoes. And then you had Mr. Casanova. You had gifts for your wife, that she's sitting here, staying up all through the night, coming to every aid station, pursuing this dream with you. But that you were thinking of her in advance to have these gifts there to celebrate, your covenant day with her. Like, surprise, babe, I got you.
I'll be honest with you. She's great at that. I'm not. So like that was like an A+ for me because that's something she would do all day long, and she'd think about it 4 months before, and it would be perfect. And I've just tried to think outside of the box a little and try to bless her in little different ways.
And being encouraged by her proclivity of being able to do that easier, but seeing like her expression of love to you and saying like, okay, I got you. I know what you do. And then like, hey, check it out, babe. I brought you gifts on the race. You know? And then just seeing that you have this whole community around you pressing in to obtain this goal that is astronomical. It's huge. And so just celebrating how as that community comes around you and all of that energy is focused towards you. This is your dream, but that your community is coming around you and saying, we want to see you be successful in this. And then you had your Barely Ultra shirts on.
Right.
And you had Romans 5:3 is your favorite verse. And I threw on 4 as well. It's one of my favorites.
3 and 4, yep.
Yeah. It's not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And then one of mine has been James 1:2-4.
Similar.
Perseverance it must finish its good works that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And so just getting to walk this journey with you of, my journey started clear back in 2020 with an ultra of this video process and just chugging it out. And getting to see in this last week in this video declaring pictures with Jesus. I didn't even know you.
Right.
I've only known you like 3 weeks, so I didn't know you 3.5 years ago. Looking backwards and sitting in that chair and saying, God, like, what am I doing? I don't think I can do that. That was like my 50-mile mark, where I'm like, man, I've been going hard. First, I was super excited. I was way overpacing myself, but I was way past the excitement point. I was just like, man, this is chugging it out. We just had a miscarriage. I was starting a business. Didn't have community at that time. So I'm just like horsing it out, hammy, emotional hammy, cramp, and just that question of like, I don't think I can do this. But that then God just starts pouring into my heart, that Jesus is my John. He's ran the hardest ultra that ever was.
Oh, yeah.
And that Jesus is like, hey, slow it down, buddy. Let's hydrate. Let's calm it down.
Yeah.
And then there's just this declaration. I found a rock that says you're stronger than you think. And that spiritual reality hit me. And I started thanking God, like, no, thank you for this trial. Like, I'm stronger than you think. And so you're calling me out into impossibility and suffering because you know what's in the tank. I don't. And the trial is the place that the ultra, barely ultra, just finish, Elijah. Just keep running. Run the race of perseverance before you. And just, being in that space then 3.5 years ago, and that was my decision point. That's where I started racing. And that was my 56 miles where I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And in the making of that video, God challenged my heart. And he's like, I didn't stutter in what I called you to. No more questioning. I don't think I'm going to make it. Put your head down and run. You put your hand to the plow and you look back, you're not worthy of me. And so in that video, I was like, hell or high water, I'm finishing this thing. And that's where I started racing. And so getting to see that moment got posted on the weekend when you're running your ultra, God merges us up at man camp,
right.
To like start doing this video thing. And then, my appendix busts, I'm in the hospital in pain, but then you're suffering, like you proactively, that was an elective suffering.
Yep.
You chose that.
Yep.
But that is calling out in us then the strength where there are the things of life where we don't get to choose our suffering. Like we show up and bam, it's cancer. Your business is failing. Like you get T-boned by a car. Like it's suffering that you don't get to choose, but that when we press in together as a community to push one another on, champion one another, get around one another in our races, and really sacrifice for one another, we discover, wow, we're way stronger than we thought. And we get to hit that 56 mile. Like,
right.
We're just chugging along with community around, and all of a sudden our race begins like 56 miles in. But then, I think specifically as men that we don't hang our heads and say like, I wasted 56 miles. No, you didn't. Like you needed that 56 miles to show yourself, this is my race. And then you're like, boom, baby. Like this is the moment.
Yeah.
And so just really getting to see how that barely ultra mindset, like engaging suffering. Suffering is the first step on the pathway towards hope. Suffering, perseverance, perseverance, character, hope. And if we choose to say, I'm not going to engage suffering, like I'm not going to engage hard things, like I'm just going to live the easy life, I'm not going to challenge myself, technically we're faulting ourselves out of hope. Like it's waiting at the finish line, arms open, come on, baby. As you cross the finish line, like what did crossing the finish line feel like in comparison to engaging that whole process of pain?
It told me that all of the training that I'd done over the last 2.5 years had purpose. And I told my wife this on the way home. It just made me feel accomplished. There's that 56-mile mark, but then there's in the 2.5 years, that's an ultra. You're training, ups and downs. There's days you don't want to put your shoes on. You just go do it because you have to. It's in the plan. I think the community is important when you're looking at the race that you're in. It was so fun to just come around the corner. It finishes on a track. You run about a half mile around the end of the track, and the little toddler grandkids are there, and everyone's yelling for you. And you're just like, I want to get this thing over with. But it was, I felt accomplished.
Yeah. 2 days before our men's camp, I was bottoming out. Like I was in some pretty low spaces. A really good friend who was up at camp, Mike, just out of the blue, he gives me a call and was just caring for me as a friend. And I just let him know, I'm in a bad place, man. Like, this is what I'm wrestling with. And he sent back a text. I think it's so beautiful seeing how God uses community to help get us across our finish line. Mike, he texts back. He says, spiritual attack is also indicative of what you're a part of right now, being a big deal. And Satan wants to derail you from your extremely influential God train that's hauling rump, and people are boarding and excited to get with you. So he sends me this text. And like, I know the video that's coming up, and just this picture of like me coming down from this mountain and this big train full of wealth.
Right.
And he has no clue. Like, nobody knows that video even exists except me and God. And then that God brings community around me in this moment where I was depressed. I was battling with all kinds of crazy mental illness stuff. And I tell Mike that, and Mike presses in and texts me like, he knows that you're a part of this big thing right now, and you're hauling rump with this train, and people are on board and excited to be with you. And God just comes along and says, guess what? I'm still with you. Like, I'm in your race. This isn't too much with you. I'm running this with you. And he who began the race, which is God, is going to finish the race, and you're with me. Don't let go of my hand. And so I think just hearing, likewise in your physical race, having that community around you, it was so pivotal, meeting you there, and your grandkids call you Podgy.
Yeah.
Podgy, and that, like, you come running into these aid stations, and they're dumping water on, your towel around your neck, keeping you cool, resourcing you, filling back up your goo packs, and, getting you some orange juice, and just the beauty of this race that we're on together in Christ, that it's a we disciple us process. We're not meant to do this by ourselves. And that as each one of us says, what's God put in my heart? 100-mile race. I want to go out and run 100 miles. I'm saying your words. I don't want to run 100 miles. You might make me do it one of these days if we keep having enough conversations. But there's these callings of 100-mile race. That's my race. And that you just have people get around you and celebrate you and say, yeah, we're going to help you get to the finish line. And so, like, just seeing how God is not a respecter of people, and that you've stepped out, like you said, that we have faith is personal, yes, but there is a corporate element that the great cloud of witnesses are looking on, and it says that they died not having received what was promised to them, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. And so this element of saying, like, I want to run my race as hard as I possibly can, push this thing as hard, this meat sack of Elijah, I want to push it as hard as I possibly can, because in my success, passing the baton to the next generation, there's a weight of glory that's being brought to them and to me, and how I run my portion of my race. And then just seeing how this community aspect of having John, pacing you, coming alongside of you, having your lovely wife, stay up all night, and going ahead to the aid stations and being there and being your biggest champion.
Yeah.
And seeing how that brings strength, and then just seeing how that gets, it's just accelerated with a turbocharger with the Spirit. And, then friends are texting you about stuff they don't even know. Right. The Spirit's like, hey, Mikey, send this through Elijah. It's going to really encourage him. And then just seeing, I'm going to finish this thing out. Like, I still have a lot of track left in front of me, another 2.5 years of this process. But just getting to see how that God, he is faithful, and clear from back in 2021, he was planting seeds in my life to encourage someone and pray for someone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know back then, but he was building resources into me to help you. And in your journey, he was building resources into you that as you were out running clear through the night, you're giving me strength in the hospital. We can't lose. Like, if God is for us, nobody can be against us.
If I remember correctly, the train was spilling over gold, blessing people. And sometimes when we're in trials, we don't see that. And we just don't know it.
Yeah.
I actually had a dream 16, 18 years ago, and it's the only dream I've ever had where I woke up and I knew exactly what it meant. I'm in this like jungle, and I'm on a raft with my cousin is right next to me, and then people I knew were behind me, but I didn't know who it was. And we're just crashing through the rapids. It's dark, it's overcast. There's snakes, like climbing anacondas. It's scary, like scary. And we're going head first down, poosh, submerging, popping up. Everyone's screaming. Nobody's comfortable. The next scene, we're out in the plains in South Dakota or so, Mississippi, Missouri, and we're on a river that is similar to the Missouri River below all the dams in South Dakota. It's just this very slow, there's no rocks. It's just 6 miles an hour, very safe.
Yeah.
It was like a spring morning, 70 degrees, beautiful blue sky with clouds here and there. And there was just this sense of peace and comfort and strength. And everybody just felt secure. So I have this dream and I wake up, it's like 2 a.m. and my wife's like, "What's wrong?" I go, "I just had this dream and I know what it means." And she's like, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "God is the water. And no matter where we're at in life, he's underneath us, carrying us through. We just forget about it." The same water that was in the jungle was the same water that was underneath us in the plains, where we felt that security and that strength.
Wow.
It's the same God. He's always there. He never leaves us. We just forget.
I love that imagery. I was like, "Oh, where's this going? Where's this going?"
Yeah.
And just seeing that Jesus he's the one who calms the seas, and he's the one that sleeps on it.
Yeah.
And he guided his disciples right into a storm.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't afraid of the storm. Dude took a cushion because
Right.
he wanted to be comfortable sleeping in the storm. Like, not only did he sleep in it, he was planning on it.
Yeah.
And so just like, I love that picture of Romans 5 that resonates in your heart.
Oh,
that
yeah.
You're like, "Man, I finished 100 mile. Now it's like, what's next? 240? You're like, I did that. Like, I want to keep pressing into the things that cause suffering, that creates perseverance, character, because I want more hope." And so just seeing that beautiful picture of that's just blowing my mind right now, that God is the water.
Right.
That we're floating on him, but that he's not just the God of the placid 6 mile an hour, floating canal, having people bring you margaritas and your sunglasses on. That'd be really boring. Like, no more of that. Like, I couldn't do that my whole life. But if it was all chaos with like waterfalls and popping in and popping out and anacondas and cheetahs and monkeys screaming, trying to tear my head off all the time,
Right.
I might get burned out.
Right.
But then just seeing this beautiful thing where that there's these poised moments of floating down the lazy river with your crew on the raft, and that you're being borne along by this God who says you need a little rest. You need some recovery time because your legs from the knees down, they need some work. You need to work out those calves.
Right.
Like, you took a pounding. Let's take some rest. Let me let you lie down by quiet waters. But then he's also the exact same Jesus that's like, "Hey, Cy, you want to get in that boat? Let's send it." You're like, "Yes, I do." But then and not forgetting that he's the same God. He's the same God of the placid river as he is the raging waters.
Yeah.
And he wants to excite our hearts with the fun of, like you said, going over Story Rock. Dude, people pay to go down rapids, right? But that we have such a gentle Father that he knows that we have more in the tank. We're stronger than we think.
Right.
And he's too good of a Father to let us live a small, comfortable, boring life He's like, hey, Cy, how about you and me? Let's go run an ultra. Hey, Elijah, how about you and me? Let's go on this adventure. It's going to test you to the max, but then there's this joy of, like you said, you finish the line, and there's this deep abiding sense of like a true righteous pride. Like, I just tagged that thing. Like, I just conquered. I'm a conqueror. And I have this community that went through the journey with me, and they know the struggle too, and the joy is shared. And that Jesus says, that my joy be in you so that it may be complete. Like, joy that is shared is complete joy. And so it's been such a blessing for me. Like, can't even tell you. I've been trying for like the last 30 minutes here on this video. Like, it's an inexpressible joy of get invited into your race story, that you just said, hey, would you join me in this journey? And like, would you share in the joy of my adventure? Would you like to do that? And then just getting to walk along with you in that and discover just all the fingerprints of what God has been doing in that pathway. It's been such a blessing. So fam, my encouragement to you is, if you're not stepping out in faith with Jesus, to allow him to press you to places where you're uncomfortable. Like Paul says, that we even despaired of life itself, that you're taken right to the edge, that if you don't let Jesus take you to those places, you're not going to find the fullness of every good thing that he has in you, everything that you have left in your tank to run your race with perseverance. So my encouragement to you, out of the testimony of what Cy is engaged, out of the testimony of what I've been engaged for the last 4.5 years, step out in faith in the things that God is calling you into. Don't try to race someone else's race. You try to step in on the pace of someone else's race without grace to do it, you're gonna hurt yourself. Like, ask him, what is he calling you to? What is the good work that you have to do, that he's created you for? And don't shrink back. Like, if it's hard, it's suffering, don't worry about it. Step into it. Suffering, perseverance, character, hope. If you subscribe to what I'm doing, go ahead and hit the button, hit it, and then hit the bell as well, so you get notified with the new content. And if you love this video, you didn't just like it, hit the thumbs down button. I pray blessings on our lives together. I love you guys lots, and I'll see you in the next video.